Welcome to the JP Podcast. I'm your host, John.
I'm your co-host, Tom.
And today we brought Heather back. I watched a couple other channels as far as homesteaders, and we have something coming up, and I started asking her about it. She said she mentioned it on our last video, and what I did was I said, okay, wait a minute, let's bring you back on, and let's talk about it. But basically what it is the USDA reached out to all the gardeners and asked them to register their gardens, and we're going to have her explain. But I could see the paranoia on the homesteader side, but I also do see what the USDA is trying to do also. So we'll go back and forth on it. We'll bring Heather in. I'll bring up the site and then we'll check it out and show everybody what we're talking about.
And this is just for clarification. This is this a more recent thing, or this has been in development for the last couple of years now?
It's been recent, as far as I know. Recent as far as I found out about it. I mean, by the time this video comes out, it would have been a good month and a half since I saw it on YouTube there. So let me bring Heather in and we'll get started. Welcome to the JP Podcast.
Tom is the man.
I'm just joking.
Year anniversary.
I'm Crystal.
Share. Welcome to the JP Podcast. Welcome to the JP Podcast. Welcome to the JP Podcast.
Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on those notifications.
Okay, and we have Heather back from La Casita Jardin. I don't know if I explained that in the beginning there. How you doing, Heather? Good to have you back.
I'm doing good. How are you doing, John?
Doing good. Actually, this is the first I've seen Tom in a while. Our schedules haven't been matching up, so haven't seen him. He's been busy, and I've been busy.
And I haven't even, the topic we're approaching today, I've been so busy that I haven't even had a chance to, I'm finding out about it as we're doing the show. That's how up to date I am on this topic.
Gotcha.
So I'll have some questions.
So
that's okay.
So basically what it is I told Tom, and I actually talked to Heather before about it, is this registration from the USDA, and the homesteaders are going crazy as far as they don't like it. What do you know about it, Heather?
More than I wish I did, unfortunately. There really are no homesteaders, farmers, ranchers that I am aware of that are thrilled by the idea and concept of this. I think overall the homestead community is the one that is speaking out the most compared to your standard farmers, ranchers. They're not thrilled, but they're keeping their heads down, I guess you could say, for a lack of a better term. But most of our farmers and ranchers in our country have been in their industry for a very long time. So they've seen change after change after change come through and down the pike. And as a result, I think they are just waiting to see what the windfall will be.
And real quick, when we say, for the layman's, when you say register your garden, that means you just have to fill out the form saying this is what I have and this is what I'm producing, square yards or whatever it may be, and this is my plan. You have to tell the government that. How would they know
what? As you're saying that, let me bring up, as you guys are talking, I'm going to bring up the website there. The website, by the way, is USDA.gov/peoples-garden. I don't know if I said that right, but we will bring it up right now. Okay.
That's the form, and on there should be a form for you to go in and fill out all of your information, your location, square footage, what you're growing, and etc.
Okay.
And it's based on an honor system is what I'm pretty much my thing is how do they know who's, I mean, I get the big farmers, they kind of have a record of those, but like if I start making a garden in my backyard, how would they know for me to go fill this out? They wouldn't know, would they?
They wouldn't know. That's the point of this, is so that they do know.
Okay.
See, that's what I think they're getting paranoid about. I mean, it is as far as I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I get it from the homesteader side. They're like, why do you need to know if I have a garden or not and what I'm growing?
To me, it screams money. To me, it screams. Like, once again, it's the first time I'm hearing of it. So I have whatever information we've talked about is all I have, but it just screams tax. They're going to eventually tax whatever you're growing and doing all that. That's what I would think. It just doesn't, my first gut reaction is it doesn't seem, it doesn't seem appropriate. I don't think why do you need to know what tomato I'm growing? That's completely of my rights to grow a tomato in my backyard. So,
yeah. So this concept that you see with this website, this forum, it's not new, number one. Number two, it is not just in the US. This has actually been done in multiple foreign countries. So in those foreign countries, if I am understanding correctly, it started out fairly innocuous, as you would see with the website here displayed on the screen. You go in and you register, and for the most part in these foreign countries, I won't name the countries that it's been done in, but in the countries that this has been done in, for the most part, everybody was willing to put down and put their information in because it was put forward under the guise of helping the community, which sounds like a really great idea because most gardeners actually are very community oriented. They're very much into sharing their produce. If they can't sell it, they give it away. It goes to food pantries. It goes to churches who have types of food pantries or have families in specific need that they give to on a weekly or monthly basis. So a gardener's natural inclination is to share. So it seems fairly innocuous, but the problem is that in the foreign countries where this has been done, those who were growing said gardens were eventually banned from doing so.
Just without just to force your hand into buying the products that they're producing, pretty much?
Basically, yes, because they want one food source.
See, and that's where I didn't know that, and that's where I was saying from the government's point of view is like, hey, we're just trying, a little community thing, because I guess when you register and then you go on the map, it actually shows your location on the map, and you can see who's all around you who has their gardens, and it's kind of like, hey, it's a it's a community.
Yeah.
And here are all the people who are also doing it, but you're saying it's already been done in another country and they were kind of using it against the people who were registering.
Yes.
Okay.
That's how it ended up falling. The first thing that ended up happening were fines.
Wow.
Because there were regulations that came down the pike on what could or could not be grown by whom and whomever. And as those things began to trickle down, of course, they were complying to the best of their ability, but they would receive fines. And eventually it got down to the point where they could grow basically nothing.
Wow.
And were not legally allowed to.
That is crazy. And that explains why the other homesteaders, they were just, like I was telling you, Tom, they were just going crazy over this. And to me, I was like, you know what, you're kind of being a little paranoid. That's what dramatic. I'm thinking. Yeah, a little dramatic about it. What's the harm in it? But then after talking with Heather and hearing what she's saying now I'm seeing, I'm kind of seeing what she's talking about. Like, I get it now, because they want, even if you have just say like what I have, a small patio and a small little garden, right there, they want to know that too.
Yeah, and that just, out of everything, it's weird. I've never thought of being able to be told that you can't have a garden in your backyard. Like, that just doesn't, and I'm not a gardener. I never had a garden in my backyard, so it's not like but to say like you wouldn't be allowed, it seems so far-fetched, but I guess it's not that far away, huh?
It really isn't. And this has been sort of like the frog in the pot for a while, because in our country here in America, we have situations where there are close housing. So you have condominiums, you have apartments, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, which is great. You have neighbors. Even the way that I'm situated, and we have the largest lot in our neighborhood, we're fairly close to all of our neighbors. But one of the things that you can actually do, even now and even 10 years ago, because I remember hearing about this 10 plus years ago, there were people who were turning in their neighbors because they were growing things. So when they turned in these neighbors, the FBI showed up with warrants to come in and search the houses, not just the property, because some of them just lived in apartments or had sort of their own purchased loft space. But because they were in a building with other people who had it, these people turned them in for growing suspicious things. And because that kind of falls under substances that are not necessarily legal, the FBI is allowed to come in and do a search and seizure, basically, should they find anything suspicious. Of course, when the FBI showed up and realized that it was tomatoes growing in a bathtub, there wasn't anything that they could do, because that is not a banned substance as of right now. But they were allowed to come in and basically ransack these people's homes, and they showed footage of them coming in, the results of the searches, and there were a few that were going legal routes against the federal government, and there was a big row about it, and then it sort of went quiet, I guess you could say, suddenly. So I'm not even really sure what the outcome of everything was in the end, but things like this have been happening for 10 plus years. So
it literally sounds like you described like a 1920s prohibition thing where they come in and raid, and it's for a food source, which is, it's crazy what you hear nowadays and where things are headed, huh?
Yeah, and she was mentioned, that remind me of another episode I saw, and that's what the guy was saying. He was mad because it was his neighbors who wanted to know what he had in there, and his place was open to his neighbors, like, hey, anytime you want to come over, but they ended up calling on him and saying, oh, well, he's growing marijuana per se. And it wasn't, it was all tomatoes, and he, he explained the whole thing. And it was crazy. It's like, these are things that people used to do back in the day. And me, my age, when I was young, you still had the older people who had went through the Depression and all that. So you had people who had all the trees, all the fruit trees and had gardens. I don't know. I don't want to say you don't see it now. I don't see it now. I don't want to say in general, but growing up, everybody had a fruit tree in their yard, and now I don't see that anymore. So what I'm saying is we should get back to that, especially with the food prices and everything that's going on. You almost have to be prepared. And it's like what Heather has said, if you're growing this, be in contact with somebody who's growing that, and you can share, but for the government to get involved, that's really, really weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no clear line of privacy there. There's no, if I can't grow a garden in my backyard, there's no, that's basic. That's basic food. That's basic human right. That's not something where, because we're born here, we need to eat to survive. And some of us can grow our own food. Why would we not do that? To me, it's just, that seems to be, it's more than I thought. I mean, obviously when you hear it and we're getting ready to start this, like I said, I just jumped into this conversation. You think, oh, maybe it's register your garden like you register a gun or something. But no, it does seem like it might be a little bit more. First thing I said was money grab, but this seems more controlling than it does money.
Yeah, it does. And if you go on the site, you'll see everything, and they make it look real nice. They actually got a video. I wanted to play it, but I don't know if I can on my channel, without whatever. But they go over a lot of stuff here. I just know that when I'm looking at something, I tend to stand back and watch how people are reacting, and that's how I make my assumptions or decisions on what's going on. And all the homesteaders are like, hell no, I'm not touching this.
Yeah. Odd question. What if you don't register? I mean, eventually would that come, if it's a forced thing, then you could get in trouble? But right now you just don't have to do it, correct?
Yeah, at some point that's what they are shooting for. And you are right. Now only they know their motives. We can only
speculate
and speculate at their actual motive.
Mm-hmm.
And there have been government movements in the past, like John had mentioned, where you had the Victory Garden, and it was just expected that every single person would, during World War II, grow what they needed to supplement their diet. And for Americans, we were able to, on average, supplement about 60% of the food needs in the household by having these Victory Gardens. So to play, I guess, a little bit of devil's advocate here, not necessarily all government movements or mandates are evil or bad. However, with the way things are trending in our country and globally, because this isn't just a United States thing at this point. I think at this point it is fairly safe to say that we are a globalized world. We've got everything at the drop of a hat. Within a few seconds, you can pull up breaking news and media, and you have social media that has everybody completely and utterly integrated and connected in ways that we really couldn't even imagine in the 90s being connected. So while having community is good, and the homesteaders are very, very big into community, the problem comes down to exactly what you pointed out: autonomy and privacy. You know, I would say that I'm in the millennial generation. I really shouldn't be in the millennial generation because I was there before Facebook was there. Like, my childhood was not on social media, so I think there needs to be a divide somehow in there. But I think my age group was probably the last age group that understood privacy that way. Like, my age group, hey, there's an off button on the computer, and guess what? Online bullies are only online. You know, they're not there giving you very real swirlies and very real wedgies, which hurt. Those hurt. So there is, and I have to combat that in my neighborhood, even because there is this thing in most people's mind that says, I can be on your property.
Yeah, that's.
I can do whatever on your property. And they don't understand, they literally do not understand. No, you are not allowed to just be here.
This is my sanctuary. This is the piece of property on this earth that I have that is my sanctuary. That's the whole point of it. Yeah.
Right. And I remember being a kid and running through neighbors' yards, and it wasn't ever a problem. And so that's not even the issue. The issue comes in when you have people just literally coming and wandering around on your property and knocking things over and I've had kids doing backflips and things off of my garden beds and have literally broken the beds because they're not cemented together. I'm still amazed that child didn't break his neck. It scared the ever living life out of me when he did that, because it just literally overturned the cinder block and he just kind of did this reverse belly flop thing. It was not pretty.
And then there goes your food you've been working on for the last 2 weeks.
Exactly. So there's this very big disconnect in the mind of a lot of our younger generations that says, well, they have to know this. They don't have to know that. I mean, I remember actually having a small fight with a previous employer who was corporate employer, and he wanted, anytime I put in for time off, I had to specify why. Exactly. And I said, that's none of your business.
Yeah.
If I have PTO time, if I have time off, you don't get to know why. Like, why do you think you get to know that? And it was the company itself. It's actually a very large company. I won't name who they are, but they required it. And I fought them on it. And I flat out told them, I said, I'll go legal because you have no leg here. If you want this to get ugly, you don't need to know, because that's my time.
Yeah, that's part of that privacy part where we were talking about, where it's there's no reason for you to.
So that's the whole reason why. Not that's the whole reason, but nobody wants the government involved because of what's happened overseas, and you think, and they think that the minute you open yourself up to that, you're going to open yourself up to even more, and then it's going to go from a voluntary registration to an involuntary registration, and then next thing you know, you're into regulations. Okay, your area can't grow this, or your area can't grow that, or we want you to do this, and we want you to use this type of soil or this type of seeds. Speaking of which, Heather had mentioned save your seeds. and the last time we talked. Now, what is the reason behind that? Was it in one of your episodes that you put out since you were last on the show, or is this something you plan to cover in the future? But either way, I want to know what you meant by it.
Okay, no, well, I think my seeds, how to save seeds, and I was demonstrating some different ways to save seeds simply from produce that you either have grown yourself or have picked up at your local farmer's market, your grocer, wherever you got your produce. And I outlined and showed how to go about doing that easily with very minimal effort. I don't believe, I can't remember honestly if I addressed the primary reason, but the primary reason, and I may have just mentioned it briefly in the video because, you know, if you have a channel where you aim to misbehave, then you're fine with getting shut down by the big media corps and the fact checkers. But there is supposed to be a seed shortage. So I believe I briefly mentioned that in the video.
I remember that. I remember a short thing of that. Yeah.
And I don't believe I went into why, the whither to and the how for of that, but I can't exactly say that it's not been planned. There are a lot of, and you can actually verify this by going on to news websites directly and or looking up companies directly, but there are a lot of processing plants across the board, various types, various kinds, most of them all food related, ironically. Within the last four years, I want to say, that have been burnt down to the ground.
Wow.
So by processing plants, you're saying that these plants that are burning down, wouldn't they want those ones to stay up, or are these the ones that process the seeds themselves?
There are processing plants that I guess you could say process the seeds. They are usually not plants that are doing seeds for the commercial farmers. So commercial farmers are the ones who are working for the government, for Monsanto, who are under direct guidelines and are growing specific modified seeds.
Yes.
We're talking about plants and food processing facilities, both that process meat and process our fruits and vegetables. They're just randomly catching fire and completely burning down.
That's crazy.
And I remember the first one that I saw, this would have been at least 3.5 years ago. And of all things, it was a family-owned business, of course. And they had a plant that processed turkeys. And literally, this was the best smoked turkey I have had in my entire life. It was perfect. It was everything you ever dream of a smoked turkey actually tasting like, but it never seems to.
Mm-hmm.
And I had asked my bosses about it because the year before they had gotten all of us turkeys for Thanksgiving from this company because they're a small American business. So they wanted to support another small family owned American business, and I believe they were in Tennessee. And so I asked my bosses about it the next year because they were doing hams the following year. And my mom and I had decided that we wanted to see if we could order from them online and get a turkey in for the family, because half the family likes turkey, half likes ham. So we thought, okay, well, we've got the ham, we can get the turkey. And so when we went to contact them, that was when I had reached out, and they got back to me via email, and they had said that unfortunately their processing facility had burned to the ground. And it was under investigation. I don't know what the outcome was or what the results were, but they had fully planned on rebuilding because they were completely insured, thankfully. So they were going to be able to rebuild on site, but it was going to be several years before they could get back to doing what they were doing prior to the fire. And then after that point, because you just think, oh God, that is weird, and you just kind of keep going. And then there was the meat packing plant that randomly caught fire in the middle of the country and completely burnt to the ground as well. And that happened, I don't know, maybe a year and a half later, which is a fairly significant amount of time between events. I mean, so you can't exactly say that they're correlated.
Yeah.
Exactly. But then another year later, Azure Standard has a fire and it burns down their facility. And then there's other processing plants that have been having this issue, but the length of time between everything, the distance, there's absolutely no correlation between all of these places.
Yeah, they've all been different processing plants too. None of them been like
Correct.
all corn or all turkey.
No. So, I mean, there's really no correlation, but gee, isn't it just really weird that we have things associated with food, plants and large facilities associated with food in particular, catching fire and burning completely to the ground. You don't hear about like a trucking facility where you're loading and offloading things completely burning down to the ground. That's not happening. You're not hearing about paper plants that are catching fire and completely burning down to the ground. So this has also triggered concern in the minds of homesteaders between that and now the government having this people's garden thing happen. So homesteaders are kind of doing this because you've got fires that are random at seed plants, food processing, places where we know we can get organic foods, not just for ourselves, but for our animals, being burnt down. And then the government wanting us to say, hey, this is everything that we're growing.
Yeah.
And this is exactly where I am. Now, why the government needs to know exactly where I am? They already know where I am. It's on my tax documentation, which don't get me started on that, but
Yeah.
And now, so when you fill out, and I assume you haven't, I'm not asking you if you have or haven't, but when you fill out this form, and I can probably go through it once we're done with this, it requires even down to the actual type of food you're growing, not necessarily just I have this many square yards and I grow tomatoes, cucumbers, and lettuce. They want like
I believe so. The one person that I brought it to my attention, his video I was watching, I'm gonna give him a shout out. I do follow him, an American Homestead, and he was the
Good
one.
channel.
It is, and he does a lot of different things, and he actually went through and was filling all this out, and I was watching it, and it gets pretty descriptive, and it is.
It's government.
It is, yeah. It was crazy. So the seed prediction, is this coming from you, personally, Heather? Is this something that you've noticed? Like, hey, that's weird. So you kind of store that. Hey, that's weird. You kind of store, and then you're putting together like, I think it's going to be seeds. Is this something from you, or is this something because I'm sure you follow other homesteader channels also and try to put things together? Is this a community thing, or is this just something coming from you like, hey, I think seeds are going to be the next thing?
Well, you know what? We'll go on ahead and we'll say that it's me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take that on my shoulders. I'll take the credit for that. And if I'm wrong, hey, I'm willing to eat crow. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
But that's not something bad to be wrong about, because I listened to you, and this summer I was on a mission. I was looking for a good tomato, and the ones I was coming across, I was saving the seeds, and she put out something really good on how to save your seeds. And you said before that there's really no expiration date on them, right?
Exactly. So number one, saving seeds is not as hard as people have made it out to be. Mm-mm. And then number two, you can save seeds off of anything. You can be eating in a restaurant and bite into the best burger of your life because it's got this really awesome tomato on it. And you can pull the seeds out of that tomato that's on your burger and take them home and dry them and try and grow them.
Yeah.
The thing that you do not have when you are saving seeds this way is what they call a germination rate. Mm-hmm. So seed companies will take the time and take a batch of seeds, I guess you could say, just for layman understanding. They'll take a batch of seeds of, say, a bell pepper. And what they will do is, out of that batch, they'll take a small percentage and they will test the rate of germination on those seeds. So they will usually it's on the back of the package, and usually it's a stamp. There are some companies that include it in the printed part of the label, but most it's a separate stamp with the best by date, and it'll usually say a germination rate. So they will say out of that portion that they set aside, 60% of the seeds produced a plant. So they sprouted. Uh-huh. Or 70% or 80% or whatever percent ended up sprouting. That is the germination. So when you're saving your seeds, you don't have necessarily a guaranteed germination. That doesn't mean that you can't pre-sprout your seeds yourself and then put those seeds in the ground or in containers if you're in a colder environment to grow them on a little bit more before putting them out. Mm-hmm. So you can do the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. It'll be an extra step, but sometimes that extra step is worth it in the long run of growing.
And that's the little bit of gardening I do have experience in. That's kind of it, is, getting the tomatoes, and so you broke it down a lot better than I guess I would have. Instead of getting the one seed, you try to get 20 seeds or whatever, as many seeds out of there as you could, dry them out. And then we did like a wet paper towel.
Yep. Wet paper towel,
and just put it in a damp spot. And then you'll come back and you may only have 4 seeds that have sprouted. And those are your 4 you get to plant, and the other ones are.
I actually did this the whole summer with the tomatoes, and it's going into, I watch a lot of prepper channels too, and the one thing that turned me off from a prepper channel is if they're not talking about homesteading. If you're going to talk about all the guns you have for hunting, but you know, and going here to pick up this and that, and nobody's talking about growing anything, then I kind of get turned off, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to follow this one anymore. I want to hear everything. You know what I mean? Even if it's something as simple as what Heather has said is, hey, if you eat something, you got it from the store or from this person, give you a bag of tomatoes or whatever. And it's not just tomatoes, but save the seeds.
Yeah.
Save the seeds. Yeah, because it's really simple. And if you are looking at being sustainable, which when it comes to homesteading, even doing urban homesteading like what I'm doing here, your number one goal is to have as little waste as possible. Your secondary goal in having no waste is to make sure that you waste nothing. That everything that you have has a purpose. There
Whether
is
it's a fertilizer or it goes into another something other than
something. Yeah.
It doesn't just go in the trash and get taken away.
Right. There's a whole cycle. And I actually filmed a video this morning because I ended up with the latest round of COVID. So I've been down for 3 weeks, which was not great because over the top of that, for us here in our zone, we don't normally get what we term our killing frost. We get lighter frosts, but we had our killing frost in the second week of October.
Oh, wow.
Which is abnormal. We normally don't see that until like right about now. And what happened was we had the killing frost and it coated everything. So it took all of the tomatoes, took all the basil, took the peppers, it finished off everything. So I have had out there dead and rotting tomatoes still hanging on the vine that I needed to get cleared out, because if you've ever encountered a rotten tomato,
yeah,
you know,
it's pungent. But so I commented to Mom. Mom was going, "It's really bad out there," and I said, "I know, Mom." I said, "But look at it this way. If you really think about it, we technically wouldn't have to sow one seed next year."
Yeah, they'll all be in the ground.
Yeah, we're going to have, I mean, those beds are going to be so loaded with volunteer. I've already had beans trying to come up again because it warmed up right after that killing frost. So, yeah, it's one of those. Granted, I lost the plants, but I'm going to have so many plants next year.
Yeah.
That my work is now going to be a quarter.
Yeah.
Of what it would be otherwise.
Yeah, but it's good to know too, as far as everything, as far as what's going on now, you know, with the politics, with the war that's going on, and everything that just all the craziness. You better start getting your skills together, whether it be hunting or learning a garden. And I heard Heather on one of her last videos saying one of the easiest things to grow is, or to start with, is garlic. You know, I'm actually going to try it. You know, I'm going to try. My first thing's going to be, because I don't have a green thumb, but you know, before I hit the tomatoes, I'm going to try
on you for that one, because that is the excuse of every single person who
don't have the patience.
Yeah, his is real dark. You know what I mean? There's no green to it.
And if you go by the house cactus, let me tell you, I can't even tell you how many house cactuses I've killed in my life. Wow. Yeah. I cannot keep a cactus alive inside to save my life.
I might do garlic now that you say that. I might check into that.
Yeah,
too.
I'm gonna try garlic and see how well I do. I watched it and I listened to her, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get back to that one, you know. Yeah. And
garlic is one of the prime examples of easy and sustainable, because when you finally do go to harvest that garlic out and you go to pull it out, if you take that head of garlic and literally just pop out one of the cloves and put the clove right back in the hole that you just vacated, top it off with some compost, you're going to have garlic again. So if you just do things, simple things like that automatically, you've still got a bunch of cloves, you know, in that head of garlic for you to eat, for you to process and use in your kitchen. But you've also got one plant already planted just in taking out the one.
Oh yeah, and garlic shelf life is phenomenal. So it's not like you can just pull, once you put that one down, set your head up there, and it's there for a while. You got it. Yeah. Every time you need to cook. So.
Yep, awesome. Exactly. And if you want to process it, you can dice it up and dry it or freeze dry it. I know people who chop it up and put it with a little bit of water in like ice cube trays.
Okay.
And put it in the freezer, so then it never goes bad, and they can just pull out one, and it's the perfect.
Yep. Perfect.
Yeah, exactly. They can't use that tray for anything else, but
water tastes funny. I was wondering why that water was funny every time I went over there.
Hey, it's good for your health.
Yeah. All right.
So that's pretty much it. I wanted to touch those couple of subjects there. We appreciate you, Heather.
Appreciate the information as well. The knowledge you have.
It's funny. She goes, I'm not an expert, but then she goes on for hours about it. And then I know more than I ever knew. And I'm like, yeah, she's an expert, you know, but she's doing real well with the channel there. I do watch it. And like I said, I don't do everything, but I when I heard the garlic part, I was like, okay, I'm going to try garlic, you know, I'm going to try that. And, but we appreciate it. And, don't forget, we're on a new platform now as far as social media. We got on Twitter. There's a lot of stuff going on with that and with the election. So got on that. We're on Instagram and Facebook. And Heather's also on a lot of those platforms there. We'll put all the information up. And, that's all I got. You got anything, Tom?
No, once again, appreciate it. And I woke up this morning and learned something new today. I had no idea about any of this, and I learned with the viewers today about everything that transpired. So we appreciate it.
Thank you, Heather. And if you can finish it the way you do, we'll end it on you.
All right. Well, guys, thanks for hanging out with us today. As always, keep it simple, natural, and essential. We'll see you on the next video. Bye.
Bye.